I was 16, and I never really believed in anything paranormal until one summer when my friends and I went camping in the woods. It was a popular hiking spot, so nothing out of the ordinary. We set up our tent, laughed, took photos, and enjoyed the fresh air. It was nearly midnight when we suddenly heard a strange sound. At first, we thought it was some animal, but it sounded different. It was this soft, dragging sound, like something was moving closer. We exchanged confused glances. "Birds?" one of them suggested, but I knew it wasn't birds. Eventually, I couldn't ignore it anymore, so I crept to the edge of the tent to peek outside. The darkness was so thick, but then, between the trees, I saw it. Something moving toward us in jerky, unnatural motions. It was big, but the shape was wrong. I held my breath as it came closer, and then disappeared into the shadows. I turned to call my friends, but when I looked at them, their faces were blank, just staring in the direction I had seen the thing. "What is that?" one of them whispered. Without thinking, we grabbed our stuff and ran to the car. As we drove away, I noticed something moving on the edge of the woods behind us, a dark figure. I felt a strange chill as we drove the last few miles. I haven't set foot in those woods since. I don't want to know what it was or why it was following us. It was late October, perfect hiking weather. I had a weekend off, so I decided to go on a solo hike and camping trip. I had a loop trail in mind that I had visited a couple of years earlier. It was a day-and-a-half long trail, mostly isolated. I parked at a small gravel lot and started the hike. The first miles were flat, through grassy fields, then led into the forest at the bottom of a small mountain. By midday, I was deep into the forest when I saw a man walking ahead. He was far away, but as I got closer, I realized he was coming toward me. Oddly, he had no backpack or water bottle, which was unusual for someone so far along a trail. He waved as he passed, but then stopped, turned around, and asked me, "Where's your group at?" I told him my friends were a few minutes behind me. He smiled and continued walking. I found the interaction unsettling. I didn't like that he knew I normally had a group. A few hours later, I decided to camp off the main trail for safety. I found a flat area and pitched my small tent. The sun was setting. While lying in my tent, I started hearing footsteps coming from the trees behind me. My heart raced. I tried to convince myself it was an animal, but the steps sounded human and were about 15 to 20 feet away. Then they stopped. Hours passed, and the footsteps never returned, but I knew someone had been nearby, waiting. When the sun rose, I cautiously packed up my tent, still on edge, constantly looking around. Then I noticed clear footprints in the dirt behind a tree near my campsite. Panic set in. I didn't check for more footsteps. I sprinted toward the main trail. Once on the trail, I quickly started heading back the way I came. Luckily, nothing else happened. I reached my car near sunset. I told my friends about the man and the stalking. They agreed I was lucky nothing worse happened. I reported the incident to the police, but there wasn't much they could do. After that experience, I rarely hiked or camped alone. I always made sure to go with my friends, and I remain cautious about strangers on isolated trails. I still don't know what the man's true intentions were, and I hope no one else ever finds out. My girlfriend and I used to go camping almost every weekend. We lived in the Appalachian region of Virginia, right near the Appalachian Mountains, so finding new trails and camping spots was never hard. Both of us had stressful jobs, and getting out into nature helped us reset. At the time this happened, we had already gone on dozens of camping trips. Nothing bad had ever happened before. That Saturday morning, we chose a small 3-mile trail leading to an isolated camping area on a flat part of the mountain. We had never been there before, but it had good reviews online, so we assumed it was safe. It was about a 45-minute drive. As we got closer, it started raining heavily. Rain in the mountains was normal for us, so we didn't turn back. When we arrived at the trailhead, we noticed one other car parked there. We actually expected more people. As we unloaded our gear, my girlfriend pointed out something strange. The passenger door of the other car was slightly open. We looked around. No one was nearby. I walked over and closed it. The passenger seat was already soaked from the rain. It was a newer, expensive-looking car, which made it even stranger that someone would leave it like that. We started hiking. The rain got heavier, and the trail was mostly uphill. After about 2 hours, we finally reached the campsite. That's when we saw it. A small, one-person tent was already set up in the middle of the clearing. We assumed the camper was inside, sheltering from the rain, so we set up our tent at the far corner of the site. About an hour later, while we were inside eating, we heard voices outside. I unzipped the tent slightly. 2 men were kneeling just a few feet away from us. They smiled and introduced themselves. They said they were staying in the small tent and had been there for a few days. But something felt off. They were wearing tight jeans and regular t-shirts, not hiking gear, and that tent was way too small for 2 grown men. After they left, my girlfriend and I agreed something didn't feel right. We kept the zipper slightly open to watch their tent. Nothing unusual happened for a while. Eventually, we went to sleep. A few hours later, I woke up needing to use the bathroom. It was still raining. I put on a plastic poncho and stepped outside. That's when I heard voices. I couldn't tell where they were coming from. Then I looked at the small tent in the middle of the clearing. The zipper was open, and it looked empty. My heart started racing. I ran back and woke my girlfriend. While we were whispering about what to do, we heard voices again, this time from behind our tent. I grabbed my small pocket knife and stepped outside. The 2 men were standing a few feet away from our tent, completely still, no emotion on their faces, just staring at me. In that moment, I knew they were planning something horrible. My girlfriend peeked out. I snapped out of my shock and yelled at her to run. We sprinted down the trail in the rain, not stopping for nearly 10 minutes. When we finally reached the trailhead, the same car was still there, and the passenger door was open again. We drove straight to the nearest gas station and called the police. A few days later, we learned something terrifying. The car belonged to an older man who had recently been reported missing. The tent at the campsite was his. All his belongings had been stolen. The two men were never found, and neither was the older man. To this day, the image of those two men standing silently in the rain still haunts me. I had a job that allowed me to travel a lot in my late 20s and early 30s, but usually only for a couple of days in one location. One week I was in Pennsylvania for work and finished a day early, leaving me an extra day before my flight. I decided to use it for a long hike. I found a trail through the forests about an hour from my hotel. I had to buy some hiking clothes since I didn't pack any. I reached the trail around noon. The trail wasn't busy, which I liked. It was a 6-hour round trip. The first hour was peaceful. I enjoyed walking alone through the trees, taking a break from my stressful work life. Then I noticed a man sitting on the ground ahead. His head was hanging down, and a hoodie covered his face. As I passed him, he looked up, staring. It was a little creepy, but I continued, checking behind me occasionally. After a couple of hours, I took a short snack break on a small log. That's when the man appeared behind me, jogging down the path. He was still some distance away, but I quickly packed and moved on. A few minutes later, I heard loud running footsteps right behind me. He stopped directly in front of me. I was nervous. He didn't speak at first. Then he reached into his pocket and held out a worn brown wallet, saying, "I think you dropped this." It wasn't mine. I told him I didn't bring a wallet, but he insisted it was mine. I could see he was getting angry. Unsure of what else to do, I took it from him. He smiled, said, "You're welcome," and walked away. I checked the wallet. Empty, worn, old. I was confused but relieved he left. I continued back to my car, constantly looking around to make sure he wasn't following me. It was late afternoon when I saw my car up ahead. As I approached, I noticed a shadow near it, crouched behind the vehicle. I froze. It was him again. I quietly reached for my keys and walked to the passenger side. I unlocked it and got inside. He immediately ran to the driver's side, but I locked it in time. He banged on the window, yelling for the wallet back. I ignored him, crawled into the driver's seat, started the car, and reversed onto the road. He ran back into the woods. I drove to the nearest police station to report the incident and handed over the wallet. Then I returned to my hotel. I realized he probably intended to rob me or steal my car. I still don't understand the purpose of the empty wallet, but I was grateful to have escaped safely. Now, I always carry a small pocket knife when hiking alone.